come up first and just start the conversation, it'll be great.
Everybody wants to come up.
Come on, Lindsay, let's get close. We'll let them do all the talking until y'all start asking.
Everybody's got the copy. Has everybody got a copy?
Mr. Lynn, before you go any further, does everybody know everything? Do you all? Okay, everybody knows everything?
He just flew in.
Tripped on the stairs, jumped up here.
Get myself together here, yeah. It's only a 75-minute drive.
Yeah, I had another meeting this morning. About an hour.
You wanna sit right here?
I'll let Bob have it.
Yeah, this is what you're asking if we have.
If you got another copy back here, we'll take it. Only if there's another.
Pass some down here. I hope I made the right copy.
Okay, I'm good.
You did get a little warm
I had you got it on this morning. When I was on there.
Rob was over there just shirt soaking wet.
I think everybody, I got one. Everybody's got one. Thank you.
Make sure I got the right copy.
Yeah, so we
I
should
have a
have,
lot of scenarios.
yeah, I think we should have as a worksheet that covers just kind of the existing debt of the county. And then we'll have two scenarios, scenario 1 is 1A, and then scenario 2. Is kind of what we have put together here. And a little bit difference between those is villages here or there, and there's a growth calculation in a couple of those as well, too as well. But a couple different conversations. I think we've had. Part of it related to some things, and I think the interest was more so about let's just update what we have on record for the county, some of the things that we've done over the years, and then I think the conversation more became an instruction of where's the county at now, where are opportunities coming for the county in the future, and how the debt service fund is flowing, how it's working, some things we can do with the fund a little bit. And then what kind of opportunities the county has in front of them. So first we'll start off with just the first page, which is just a capture of where the county is in its debt side, bond side, and we'll walk through that page first. So what we did was we took all of the county's existing debt, right? And this is what we've done in several other counties, works well in cities and works well in counties as well, is to pull everything together, right? There's an efficiency that's gained when we look at all the different types of obligations, and we look at all the different villages and the equivalents and the assessments and kind of add them all together. And what we've done is we've captured everything at one time, right? So all the debts, and what we're assuming is we put them all into one fund. We control cash coming in, we control the payments going out, we're capturing cash from there, right? So that's what this page is kind of formulating. The reason why, again, you gain the efficiency. If you pull all of your resources together and not have separate funds for every obligation that's out there, separate millage requirements, we don't have to worry about moving revenues, moving expenditures through the year for different places and different reasons. We get efficiency by pulling all that cash together, right? And then we know where we stand from an overall cash standpoint as it relates to debt. We know where we stand in an overall payment side, right? So two big differences all together. We make that part of the budget a lot more simple, right? We know how much the debt payments need to be. We know how much revenue we need to have. We evaluate what we have as a cash on hand basis for all of the debt. And we can turn that part of the budget into a 2-second conversation, right? We focus more on operations, we focus more on capital. But we compile these things together because it is a much more efficient way of looking at it from a budgeting standpoint as well as a few other things, right? And so we listed all the different individual bonds that are outstanding, the payments as they move through fiscal year in the left-hand column. And then from those payments, we put together what the equivalent millages are associated with each one of those, right? So like the 2017 Industrial Park bond, the very first column we see there, with the current per mill that the county has on a 1 mill basis, $467,753 or so, that $612,000 payment is equal to about 1.31 mils, right? And so we did that for each one of the debts. So we can kind of see the impact of each one. We can see when they pay off. We can see the timing of the payments and everything kind of going forward. And if you look at the far right column, there's a column that is in white, and then there's one in green, and there's an equivalent millage side over there, right? Most important thing that we do when we look at these plans as a benchmark to start off with is county had a growth of 1.69% in assessed value from last year to this year. We leave it at 0, right? We would assume that let's just keep millage where it is now. Let's run it out through the far ends of where debt service goes out to, and we can incrementally measure the millage impacts from there. Now we do know, right, over time, assessed value is going to change. It go up, shouldn't go down, right, but it should go up or maintain the same. We don't put that into our base projections so that we're always stay as centralized in budgeting as we can, right? When assessed values do go up and those millage equivalents start to go down, we would have captured a little bit of cash into that, right? We use the cash for various different things. One, we can pay down debt. Two, we can use it as a precursor to future projects, right? We can use that cash to put it to work so we can avoid complicated issuances of a capital project or multiple capital needs that come up where there's not a timing of really freed up debt service payments, not a freed up millage in the fund. We can use that cash to draw on it, and we can keep the fund self-sustaining, right? So we keep it at 0% just so that we feel pretty comfortable about what we're generating now and how we can flow through future years, right? So, I mean, any questions real quick on this first one here, right? I mean, this is just a capture of all the existing debt issuances, what their millage equivalents are, and the timing of the payments and when those kind of pay off. And then, the equivalent millages in future fiscal years in that far right-hand column. So. Good, yeah. Anything else?
Of course.
So that's our
Is this
benchmark.
all county's outstanding debt of these 1, 2, 3, 6 things? The
General
refunding?
obligation.
Bonds, yeah.
Yeah, all your bonds, this is all of them.
All
It
the
shows
bonds.
that the completion year, 2037 for some, but.
Yeah, some payments are higher, some payments are smaller, right? Some of these were refundings. When they were refunded, they were structured around other debts. So you kind of see where the payments are total debt service payments are relatively close to the level, and then you have a pretty good drop off coming in 2033, kind of from there. But the payments were all set to wherever keep things going in the fund relatively smooth the way that they are right now.
Is the hospital just expansion? That was the big hospital project years ago. Is that what that is?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what is like refunding? What happened in 2018, AB 2019? What was that about?
Yeah, so the hospital, those bonds at that time they met the criteria for savings for refunds, and so they were refunded, and then they were set to where they would keep the payments as level as possible between both of those. Yes.
Okay, wait a minute, explain that one more time. So what?
So you can refund debt at any point that you choose to do so. Once you get past a certain what's called a call date, right, on a loan, and if you can attain savings, kind of around there, right?
Generally, you gotta save 2% in order to do it. Y'all probably know.
Yeah, net present value kind of on there, right? So those deals were refunded back in 2018, and they were wrapped around each other as well as some other debts for various different purposes.
And the interest was low at that time.
Oh, yeah.
Correct.
Low interest rate.
Good saving.
And so and I get dealing with hospital bond. So these two columns, the 11,8, 28,675, and 495. This one and this one. And you add all three of those together, that's the total debt for the hospital. But I know this was a revenue bond right here, right?
And that is principal and interest.
Principal and interest.
Yeah, that's total debt service payments over what's remaining of those bond issuances. Yeah, so we totaled up principal and interest across the bottom of each one of those. You can see what the remaining amounts that will be paid out through their term lengths from there.
And this is the foundation of building on what you can do in the future under certain scenarios. And that's what we'll look at next. Is what opportunities do we have with our existing debt as it pays off? What can we do in the future?
Right.
And this is, if you're ready to go forward, we'll go forward with those.
So, outstanding, I'm just talking about 47 million, the last one, say 10 years out. I guess that's your 4.5 million a year, 4.3 million is bank balances. Is that an annual payout? I mean, well, it's a good, we owe about 4.5 million a year on some type of bond.
Well, all of the general obligation bonds outstanding together, right, is in fiscal year 24 for principal and interest, the payout is equal to right at $4.3 million.
That's the 4.298.
That's right.
In October 1, you had 4.3 million, 4,330,000 change there. Actual cash in the bank beginning October 1. Correct, Lois?
Yes, sir.
Gonna get freed up a lot in 2032. This is good and healthy for a county. Are these good numbers?
They're good numbers. I mean, it takes money to build and make improvements. So if you're gonna do it through cash, which requires a significant levy, or you can do it through this is your capital funding plan, here. So it can, as debt is paid down, capture the growth in your debt service fund. If you opt to go that way, every 3 or 4 years you can be doing significant work, which you'll see.
That's a little time out, but you almost need to be planning to fill something with that void in the 2030s. You need to be. I guess scenario 1 and 1A are no tax increase, and then scenario 2 is tax increases or some type of middle.
1 and 1A space. 1 is zero growth. 1 is with your normal growth, 1.6%. And then 2 is building in some tax increases. Your millage in 24 is a little under what it should have been to cover this year's total debt payment. But you had cash on hand because of that. So, and that's reflected in 2 there. So,
Yeah. But I mean, the question, I mean, every county is different. Every county has different needs. They have different things they're trying to accomplish, right? So it really comes down to what, when you look at a county, you look at their finances, you look at their plans, their needs, wants, it's, opportunities are going to be different, right? And so we're looking at the county here and looking at what all the other funds are doing. It seems to be compartmentalized and it's taking care of itself, right? There's nothing overtly that jumps out that says, "Oh, wait a minute, we've got some things we really need to do to get the ship going back in the right direction." It's being taken care of, and it's, $4.2 million in terms of total debt service payments. It's going to be different from county to county. It's about the size of the county, things that counties are doing. There's counties that are paying a lot more than that. There's counties that are paying a lot less than that, right? But it's indicative of counties that are dealing with capital improvements, whether it's roads, bridges, buildings, whatever it is, and then how they're handling other things in the operation from a road standpoint and other types of things as well. So we look at it as is the county providing for its current debt service. This page is telling us that yes, it is. That the opportunities are being we're done in the past is being provided for and then we can look at this to see what opportunities the county has kind of going forward.
You just think, where are we with our capital needs, roads, buildings, bridges, whatever? Where are we? Where do we need to be? This is the big plan as to how to get there. So
How does this fit in with the big request that Mr. Collins had in his department? Is that in scenario 1 or 1A or?
it's big.
Well,
And on equipment, you do have the authority to issue bonds for certain equipment. That depends on the line. If it's a vehicle, depends on the weight of it. And there is the 5-year note authority that could take up the other, if you wanted to go that way. You could either go through the lease purchase or go through the note, have the note paid out of this fund. You know. But all that has, when we get into that, we start working those components to determine the impact on the, you know, which is the best way to go there. Automobiles is not part of a big bond issue, but it qualifies for the notes there. If the note is cash flow.
Well, yeah.
Any other questions on before we get into the various scenarios of what we could do, depending on?
So when you mentioned about the millage was a little lower than probably what it should have been, what should it have been to kind of make it not?
Little over 9 units. In total, 9.19 million, and it was 8.6 million.
8.6.
So we're basically half a mil short. But we made it up in other areas.
Well, it's, when you let in villages for 6 different bond issues, you're looking at it all. This is common. So,
So, I mean, I guess I'm just wondering what you had said before, does it come out where we're better putting it all in one? Where we're, you know, where we don't have to raise any bills?
well, that's your, I think your end game is where you want to be, is get a millage established where you don't raise the millage, you don't have a yo-yo millage going up and coming down. Keep it level. It's better for planning that way. You do have some hopefully accumulation of cash. It's gonna be available for debt service only, bond and interest payments only. And you don't have any real needs for a couple of 3 years and generating some cash in the bond and interest fund. When debt's callable, you can call bonds in inverse order if the documents provide for it. It's generally the way the documents provide. You can go into that last year and pay that off if you've got excess cash. And you have cities that do that are accustomed to doing that. But they operate under the concept it's all in one fund. You have the citywide bond and interest fund. Counties have some counties that have a county-wide what they call debt service fund. Generally, it's the one.
Which one of those financially works out better for most of them?
I think the one millage going through this process that we have here works better. Setting the millage somewhere, years would come in. You're at 9 mills now, 9 or 10 mills. Would be a good millage going forward. And you could, if you held that millage in place, with growth, you'll be able to do a lot in the future. I think you'll see as we go forward. But you have 6 millages only. You have 6 millages only for 6 bond issues.
Yeah, that's right.
So you'd have the same formula here to get there. Now, if you opted to look at maximizing what you can do in the future, you want to keep that millage the same and not raise it and lower it based on this individual year. Try to lay it out so you can see the full impact every year of what you're doing throughout the life of all the bond issues. And this is what you see on the first page. So, then it gets down to what can we do with it. And you'll be able to do more working that method than otherwise just waiting till the bond rolled off or just having to raise taxes when you need to do something, got to do something, which I see that in a lot of cases. No, you don't.
Right.
You absolutely do not want to raise taxes. I'm with you.
How do you increase the services?
Well,
Or accomplish some things you want to accomplish that's outside of your
one, you
current
can
cash.
reallocate millions if it's available. Two is the small incremental increases. Instead of putting on 5 meals, put on half a meal or a quarter of a meal. If you're looking down, then what you do is once you start developing the plan and you see what you need to be doing, that's the key, the planning of what we need to do. And in some kind of a 5-year plan or a 3-year plan or the next 2 years, start somewhere. What do we need to do now? What do we do now? But this is how you grow the county. And I'm getting on the soapbox, but I believe this is my 55th year of work since college. And one of my former lives, I was the CFO for the city of Tupelo, city clerk, dishwasher, janitor, did all of that. So that's where I learned how to do this, because they have a farm plan. Didn't know that. So does some cities and counties. But I like what Winston Churchill, he's given credit for this in his thoughts. Failure to plan is planning to fail.
But sometimes you reallocate meals, you want either cut services or we have a meal that is going rolling off or something like that. So don't want to cut service.
No. And if you look at it and you take the capital side out of operations, typically this is the way you budget. The capital needs are just part of the general fund budget, correct? But if you can separate those, and you got your millage dedicated for operations, personnel, services, and supplies, and small. I'd use like typewriters, but computers, stuff like that, just as part of that. Then you have the millage dedicated for capital, and you're not stealing from either one. What you normally do is you reduce your capital purchases, no matter how big you need equipment, until it just won't work anymore, to fund operations. That's get back on the soapbox. But that is by far the best way to establish the millages that you need for each of those components. And you can plan better for each of those components. In most of the places where the plans are in place and have been there for a good number of years, operations is maybe a day. Some tell me that it's 3 hours, and it's 3 weeks on the capital side to 3 months, you know, it's May, September, when you adopt the budget. And that's the way you really want it. As it gets down to personnel, I mean, you do need to add, you want to put that part in. Personnel services and supplies are pretty well tied together. The number of personnel we have drives supplies and services for the most part. After you get past utilities and insurance.
And one meal for Occidental County is for,
467,000.
$467,753. 753.
That's the net collectible dollar. Your gross millage is gonna be higher, it's gonna be about it'll be about 500,000 gross.
Get it down.
Okay, all right, Nick.
No, great questions, right? I mean, that's kind of the point of what we're about to discuss is reference right back to that, right? Of leveling out some village somewhere, capturing the cash, and then seeing what we can use this fund to get done in the future for the county, right? So that's a great question, great point. You know, so we'll look at scenario 1 first, which is the first page of the staple set, right? And its annual growth is set at 0. And it is grabbing the 8.60 mils that were allocated to debt service fund this year. And so column in yellow is what we took from our base page, right, and inserted in there. But here we're showing the effects of cash, tax revenue, payments going out, and then ending cash from there. And with that millage at 0% interest rate, we're capturing where there are opportunities and the amount of projected debt service bonds really to come out of debt service fund at some point in the future, right? And so at that millage rate over that time frame, assuming no growth, kind of the way the numbers work out is that you could get to about 2029, and you would have roughly about a $7.5 million capacity kind of from there, right? So what it says is that we need to shore the millage back up in the fund because we're using cash until we get to that point, right? It's really what I think we see when we look at this. It's what I see. Hopefully I'm explaining it to y'all correctly. What you see when you look at this page is that we need to reallocate some millage, we shore up the debt service fund, and we can keep that cash kind of consistently kind of going forward. But, you know, the forecast shows, you know, in mathematically that 2029 would be an opportunity for any large sizable amount of capital that the county could tackle, right? We need something smaller than that, but that's really where your big opportunity kind of lies from there. And if we flip the page over to 1A, and we add in...
Any questions on 1? Okay.
And then, yeah.
I know you said 2029, but it's 2024, so that'll be the next board will be issuing that.
Yeah, on 1.
So in
So
one,
is that just you're saying that the current 8.6 bond and interest millage is not enough to cover that such payments you're using cash to that out of
Using level debt service plugins on this scenario, right, that's when you can issue less money than the 7.5, and then, I'll just use 7.5. Probably what you need to spend on the road.
You can use less money to
Well,
issue the 7. Say that again.
On scenario 1, if you needed to issue $7.5 million worth of bonds, with no growth or nothing.
With no tax increase.
No tax increase, no growth in assessments, leaving the millage as it is currently in place. if you had to do $7.5 million, it would be 2029 before you could issue this bond. And if you wanted to do $2 million worth of bond, do it soon.
Scenario 1 and scenario 1A, is that applicable to our situation here today? This is not current for today.
It would be, scenario 1 would be current if you get this road. Build your village as it currently is in place. That would be.
I guess I was looking at the issue year.
I mean, if you go back and look on scenario 1's page, on the current debt service payments, you're running basically the same debt service payments until, really small decreases each year, a little over $4 million a year. And your millage is really not covering those earlier payments. You're pulling the cash down with the current millage that's in place. So you're unless you do something, you're locked in if you don't grow. Now, growth has a place, a major role in
Or we pay down some of this earlier, get some of this millage off of us earlier.
With growth.
And again, it's a whole different scenario.
Scenario 1 is the worst case. We don't grow, we don't have enough millage on to meet the current bond payments. We will in the future, but it's gonna take us 3 or 4 years to get there.
When you say we don't have enough millage on, you're speaking about we don't have enough millage in place to service our bonds that we've got out there right now. It should be 9.1 to cover the debt that we've got on bonds right now, but it's 8.6.
And it does, and you're able to do that because of the existing cash that you have.
To make up the difference.
And this is what I see often is each year, come up with millage calculations, and it's easy to do this when you're trying to do it. A lot of individuals. You reduce it to exactly what that millage is going to be. You drop it each year for each one. That's how you really get into being happy when you got six bond issues to levy for. You can still levy for them if you want to. I don't know. You gotta know what, you need to know what the total is.
So if rates were, if the market was, get that financial, you could commingle those bonds in a larger refunding effort because those bonds were for different, although they're general obligation bonds, they were for different purposes.
Well, refunding bonds, you look at them on an individual basis. You've got the call dates.
Right.
You can restructure. If you wanted to just take them all and then redo all of them, you're in trouble. Jump in this state, this trouble. Your limitations on the restructure. You have to have an economic reason to do it. And no single pupil can exceed 6%.
That's it. You hit the nail on the head.
And it has to be the 2%.
No, there are 2 ways to restructure bonds. are refinance bonds. One is the restructuring, like Glenn said. And under that scenario, under that statute, you can't exceed 6%, and it has to be a JIP, okay? The other way is the 2%, and you can do any types of bonds and say 2%, reconfigure them. And, but you have to look at the call dates, but as far as purposes, like you're talking about Orlando, that really doesn't matter as long as you spent the bond money in the right. I mean, we have to do some stuff, but legally, but otherwise, that doesn't, you're looking at the financial outcome at that
As long
point.
as it's GO and
As long as,
GO
right,
and not.
right.
Don't get confused on the 2% net present value savings and the 6% annual coupon rate that's on the bond.
Right.
So what he was asking, individual bonds, you can go in and recall individual bonds even within that one millage that's set to service all of it.
It's partial, that's what's called a partial refunding, but, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be any different, right? I mean, if we have 6 different millages levied, or we have 1 millage levied, it works the same, each bond is its own bond, right? Just rather than listing all of these things out one by one, we're looking at making it one levy between them, right? So I think that's the only thing that would be different here. You know, each bond would still be its own bond. Yeah.
But we wouldn't change the overall millage though. Even though we recalled a particular bond, got a lower interest rate, we would still let that same millage stay set to service all of it.
Yeah, so you would, yes, Mr. Mulvey, that's right. So in the debt service fund and how it relates to a capital plan, if there was efficiency of savings and we freed up in portion of the millage that was levied to cover the debt, we can look at how that would time out with other capital needs that were needed, right? So if we drop debt service down because we refunded something and we saved money, it would be a decision of what do we do with that millage? You know, do we have other capital? We look at the capital plan and we see what's next to be purchased, bought, or whatever kind of flows from there, right? And so it's a step between general fund, capital fund, right, and then debt service on this side. So both are feeding into the capital fund. If I get a little efficiency on the debt side, I do feed a little bit more into the capital fund at a time whenever those efficiencies are gained, right? Because we saved money somewhere. You know, if that makes sense. Right?
And if you got some excess monies that you know you're going to look 2 or 3 years, you might can come down and pay a $500,000 bond off in last year, whatever that is,
Right.
when they're calling. That works well too. You don't want to build up a whole lot of cash and not have any foreseeable needs for it. You don't need anything. Have I totally confused?
I just want to know what we call this capstone class. What do you call this class we're going on here? Debt service 101 or? It's been a long time.
Does everybody have questions? We all want to talk more.
Yeah, that's the only way this really works, right? Is you gotta have questions. If you don't ask questions, then sometimes we go to a meeting and we'll stand there for 3 hours talking. Nobody asks a question. I ain't leaving until somebody asks a question. And then we know something has happened.
And I like to call this best practice.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all coming in early. I think it shows foresight for Mr. Lois to call this, and I'll want to call on you always. I know you got what's going on in your mind, any questions, anything you're missing.
Making it pretty simple. Well, I understand it.
She
Maybe
can-
because I do it, so.
She can speak to this as well as I.
Oh yeah. Just didn't know. Y'all see something big, don't let it get by in that point of the conversation, you know.
And Mr. Lewis, if I say something out of step, yell at me.
No, you're good.
Continue. Oh, we're good on one.
I mean, I don't even think that 0% annual growth will happen. I don't know if they throw this one out, but I assume growth in the county the next few years. Just
Well,
Shouldn't it? Shouldn't
Where
it?
we get,
The county is growing. but
Except for this last one.
In my years of experience, I have come across where growth is negative. It's decreasing. That,
recently, we have had positive growth.
you have,
recent.
that's real good. Recent.
We got situations we don't get them under control, we're not going to.
Y'all do ever do growth projections on the county? I mean, you know, if Active County is projected to grow from y'all's, you were betting on it, you know, I mean, you think Active County in 5 years is even growth or positive growth? I mean, you looking at 2% or 1.5%, or is there any way to calculate that?
well, yes, you can, right? I mean, you can mathematically, through a form of linear regression, determine what the growth factor of the county is over time. However, 2008 wasn't, you can't put that into a calculation, right? COVID, you can't put that into a calculation. There's economic factors you can't put that are just not a variable to put into a calculation, right? So if we were to base our entire plan off of a continuous 4% growth or some value that has been historically always been the case, if something deviates from that, then we have to come back and just turn the ship in a whole different, kind of direction from there, right? And so we do look at history, we do review where assessed values are growing, new properties, there's gonna be give or take a lot of different things that happen. And scenario 1A is taking what the previous year's growth was at 1.6%, 1.7%, or 1.6, and letting it kind of go from there, right? And it changes the dynamic here. It changes the forecast of what projected new capital that the county could undertake. It also is going to put cash to work at the same time, right? And so if we were to accelerate above 1.6%, the cash movement wouldn't be as much, right? Because value per mill would kind of go up. But if the growth rate didn't move at that same step, we have to come back to evaluate cash kind of from there. So long-winded answer of saying is that we don't want to write in a formula that is centered around a consistent percentage of growth over a 20-year time span, because there's no way that we can know that would happen.
When you get ready to do a bond, you take that bond, we project forward at 0% growth throughout that point there. Then we do this for structuring purposes. We look when we're actually working through a bond issue, working through that. We've not only looked at the beginning and ending balances here on the page where it's got beginning cash and ending cash. We look at test each month for what is the minimum balance of that cash going to be, see if you're going to hit any negative. Because you have a big positive beginning and ending and a negative in between the 12 months there. The structure around that, because this is basing it on zero growth at that point in time. You're not going to grow anymore. We try to, at least, if that occurs, there's no way to work around it, and it's temporary, it's solely on that year, and can't structure through it. We're going to tell the lowest. You're going to have to take, borrow money from the general fund to make this bond payment, because you gotta make bond payments, whether there's any cash there or not, bonds have to be paid. Totally confused. But that's just how we operate, that's how we.
Yeah, so looking at the scenario, right, I mean, we left everything the same. We have, beginning cash. It kind of moves up projections a little bit that there, if you're consistently growing at 1.6%, you would be looking at maybe 2026 as an opportunity to be able to do about $7.5 million worth of projects, right? Of a bond issuance. 2029. There's a $3.5 million or so, 2032, a $5 million or so, right? And so at that 1.6%, things start to accelerate. Like we said though, right, each one of these are gonna stand on their own, we'd have to come back, recalculate, reevaluate, relook at some things and see what cash looks like, what the growth looks like again, and kinda go there. So, you know, consistent growth shows things moving a lot more faster, than if it wasn't, right? That's the only difference between 1 and 1A.
So the interest rates will drive this up or down. We think these interest rates are conservative, and not too conservative, because that would distort it. You usually can opine on that part.
Yeah, it's, right, so we'll move to scenario 2, if we're good on 1, which is really just a continuation of the base form that we kind of talked about or so, but scenario 2 takes into account a couple other different things, right? It takes in this incremental growth. It also takes in the reallocation of millage from the county back into the fund to get where you need to be for covering the current debt service payments, as well as providing for future debt service payments, you know, kind of from there, right? And so it takes into account, reallocate roughly 0.60 mils, which is a reallocation of existing millage over into debt service fund. Pick up that revenue or so, you would be somewhere where you could be 2024, 2025 doing about $7.5 million worth of bonds for capital. And then you would look at another reallocation somewhere down the road, again, driven by what the interest rates are and how debt service actually works out. You could be looking at more capital again, 27, 28, and then a third time, 31, 32, and we can see 7.5 million, 7.5 million, 10 million. Those are the upper threshold numbers, right? It could be something below that, right? Obviously, it's a number somewhere, in that range or a little lower. So, but we can kind of see by reallocating back over to the fund, we set on the level millage kind of going forward from there. You can start to see how things start to really build up in the fund to be able to start getting capital done.
And this is based on level debt service. Now, if you needed, say, $10 million, 25, we can look at how we can structure to get there, and then still make an assessment on the impact on future years. 7.5 works real good, level debt service, no structuring at all. Now, structuring, that limited structuring authority under general law, we have pretty much unlimited structuring authority under development law. We have a lot more flexibility in structure under the development law.
Go over here to the per meal tax dollar on scenario 2.
Yes, sir.
And it looks like starting off 2023, $460,000 per meal.
Yes, sir.
Then 2024, you got it estimated at $467,000, and so forth and so on down going. Is that with the incremental millage increase? Is that what's projected?
It's capturing.
Or this is sort of projected out as growth.
It's capturing both. It's capturing the growth, but then you're reallocating the millage over times that new per value of mill to get to
You gotta dumb that down a little bit.
Yeah.
Dumb that down just a little bit.
So the per value is moving with the percentage increase, right? And then the reallocation of millage is how we're getting to a new tax revenue
Okay, you're
number.
reallocating
Yes.
some millage in there.
Yes.
So we're not having a tax increase, so you're not upping the millage.
It's a middle tax.
Well,
You'll be reducing millage.
somewhere else to the
Right,
extent
yeah.
that you could, yeah.
Okay,
So we're,
so we're getting rid of some millage, but we're keeping it in that fund.
Keeping the same amount of millage.
Keeping the same, but yeah, we're keeping it at 8.6 or whatever.
yeah, total millage, we're Go ahead, I don't want to.
And now the millage and the bond and interest fund and the capital projects fund, that's really how you build the capital project fund is through this. Would go up, millage from somewhere else in the county would go down. But your millage would go up if you use what's here, this 0.6 to get it. It would be at 9.2 mils. Right.
And that's continuing to go up.
No, now your growth is coming in at 1.6%. That is where your assessed values are coming in and growing at that. So your millage is, the value per mil is going up by 1.6% a year.
I guess what I'm trying to say in my small mind is we're getting rid of some debt or reallocating it. And we're taking those mills and putting it back in. But we are not raising taxes to the people.
Yes, that's a fair statement.
Huh?
Raising a million.
Categories, no.
Raising millage within one fund and
Yeah,
reducing
reducing
reallocating.
another fund.
But we're keeping taxes.
Well, see, the taxes are based upon the assessed valuation and the improvement they do to their property, other variables other than million. Because take for instance, when we, and I guess this is one of the positive sides behind the hospital bond we put on. When we first started with the hospital, I think we had, what, 4 meals on, or 5 meals on altogether?
Started, I'm not.
That was before you, before your time, right? And so as county has grown, we've been able to decrease that, but we've been able to shift that in other countries.
I think that's what you were saying too, you know.
Right.
We keep the same amount of millage, we just reallocate it to different services.
Our county administrator want to add to
Let
this
me
conversation.
say something, because I think, you're getting this confused. What they are discussing is just the bond, that's it. That's just a small portion of all our funding. So you will see everything during the budget time. So when you're indicating increase in a mill, I think you're talking about the overall millage. That's not what they're discussing. They're only talking about bond. You'll hear everything when we start working on the budget. They just talking about a small portion.
Cause the county has how many mills overall?
1.2461 something. So they just, what they're discussing is just a small portion of it. So they
So this is just our
can't-
bond.
That's it. That's it. I just want to.
How many total mills the county has? Around
Yeah.
129 point some mills.
I didn't want you to
Overall.
misunderstand when they're saying not an increase, but this is all they're talking about. What you're discussing will come during budget time.
Okay, because, yeah, don't
And
make us sound.
we're talking about, yeah, okay.
And I think you gotta look at politically, if this is getting something done in this term, in scenario 1A, probably not getting anything. I mean, you'll be issuing series 27 or 26, you know, you're looking at really not payment till 27, but I mean, that's kinda what you were saying earlier about the time frame is, that's, one of these is pushing to the next board, this is getting $7.5 million worth of something this term, and I think you gotta look at that politically, it's like, you know, do we have something out there that warrants a bond, but, you know, well, I think we all have something that we could heat that up with, but, you know, one of these is pushing it off, deferring to the next board, in my opinion, I don't think.
Then if you need, it's based on level debt service, not structure, not getting, you know, that, you can get more than $7.5 million if you structure.
So part of what we were trying to do is just get a picture of what we can do. And once we determine what the capacity that we have, then we can start talking about what do we want to do. You know, we know our road manager has a list of equipment, and there are some other things that I'm sure each one of us is thinking about doing. Our county administrators, you know, building projects. So once we determine what we can do, then we can have a discussion about what it is we want to do going forward.
This is the 35,000 foot east back here, what And a conservative is 35,000.
Was there a reason for picking 7.5?
No reason. It started off, in the second scenario, what could we do? And that's where it came from. Could have been 5, it could have been, if they didn't know what your plans was, I was just trying to look at a time frame. What you could do, $25 million at a time. And stay conservative. In scenario 1, you can't.
That's a
You
reallocation.
don't,
That's a reallocation or addition, right?
Yeah, I mean, all that would be decided.
Okay.
What were you asking?
On this, on the reallocation, another tax
Which
million,
one? Number
which is the,
Scenario 2?
scenario 2. You see that point 6 is a reallocation, and that point 8 during 2027 would either be an additional or reallocation.
It would have to be remeasured, right, see where cash is, see where the where assessments are, what the per mill amount is, and then be another conversation about, would it, how high would the per tax go up? Or is there available millage or so to never move over?
Do you see anything down through there that we can reallocate? Have you looked, searched down through there?
It
Okay.
is, there, yeah, we can find it. If the concern of the board is not to increase the overall millage during budget time, then yes, there's some funds I can reallocate to add into the bonding.
Okay.
Well, Lee, when you were with, Lee, and I know we're talking about Lee County, apples to apples, well, a much bigger apple to a small apple. Did you all issue bonds every term? And then,
well, in the city of Tupelo, I was at the city.
oh, wait, City of Tupelo, I thought you were Lee County. Because, and the reason being is because I know from reading Lauderdale County, that was one of the things that they mentioned to me was that each term, they would come in and issue bonds. And then as you go through that cycle, the cycle would perpetuate itself. After, well, I think maybe after 4 terms, maybe. Well, it depends on how long you structure those bonds out. And so right now, I think we issued one, I guess we issued one the last term, 21. And so if we come back and do one this term, and then the next board comes in and do one following term, and just do it perpetually, then in essence, you will build that fund.
If you keep your millage the same.
If you keep your millage the same. But now you would have to add that mill on or find it from somewhere. And then every time, and of course with our scenario right here now, we got some bonds coming due in 2032, we got some coming 2037. Of course you got your hospital stuff out there. I think the Arizona is 2032, 2033. You got one that's coming off in 2030. And I guess this one right here is in 2035. But, go
I
ahead.
didn't mean to interrupt. The 21 bonds, the plan is to use the use tax to pay those, right? No?
Yes, if you know.
Right, but are they? No?
We're
Okay.
using our
Okay.
use tax or something else.
Okay.
It's
You
already
got all the
been
use
utilized.
tax.
Yeah, so y'all hadn't even talked about use
No,
tax.
I
Okay.
have not.
Yeah.
See, it's already been utilized.
No, you use it just like you use it.
Okay.
These are GO bonds, GO,
But that could be an option though.
oh, you can use it. You can use it,
So
absolutely.
let's pull it from what we got. But now on that, though, is it reoccurring expenses that we have that allocated to, or just one time
With the use,
use tax? Right.
nothing is really allocated to it. We just set up a different fund because they made some changes as of July 1, 2023, that you can use it for, and it has to stay affixed to the road. So we set up a fund that the asphalt, the covers, that type of stuff, that's gonna stay on the road, that we can use it for.
Use tax, can we use for that? That just changed?
July 1 of 2023, they made some changes with the use.
Yeah, they changed it to where, last year, they changed where The use tax for counties, you can use it for roads and bridges.
Yeah.
That's it. And it used to be you could use it for equipment and personnel, but they took the equipment and personnel out of it last year. Okay, so you're limited right now. There was a bill that was in committee today to put the equipment back in it.
Okay.
But as of right now, you can't use that money for equipment or personnel.
And it can
Okay.
change, when we go to conference,
Yeah.
it changes
Go ahead,
so much,
please.
so it might change this year.
You can use it for bond.
Oh, yeah, and
Yeah,
debt
we can
service,
do
I'm
that.
sorry, debt
Yeah.
service too, yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sorry, you can use it for
that's what I
debt
was getting ready to
service.
ask, we
Yeah,
can use
yeah.
it for
Debt
service and
service
bonds.
counts,
Oh,
right.
That would increase the service of our road department, so they wouldn't have as much, funds for equipment use.
Now, if you turn around and give it back to the road fund, and let the road department do your work instead of give it to the contract.
Yeah, you let the road department do the work, and that's what we should be moving toward, I agree, but that too is to hire a different additional person.
Yeah, and the additional personnel, just
Additional
equip,
personnel,
whatever they need,
and
don't want to be,
additional- And
yeah.
additional equipment, and
But
we
you
need to
feel
be,
it's-
in my opinion, we need to be moving in that direction. And we spend a lot of money on contractual services.
But one of the things I was thinking that we could use this and use tax and leverage a bond payment, use some of that to leverage a bond payment, go ahead and purchase all the equipment we need. Because I see that sort of as a, like I said, a stair-step benefit. Because if you can go ahead and purchase your equipment that's needed right now, what that does is one, you've got warranty on new equipment. Two, you're not working on old equipment, anymore. Three, you're not trying to move a piece of equipment around to fill in a gap over here and then you lose it out over there. So to me, you just, you stair-step in your benefits by going ahead purchasing and then leveraging or servicing that debt with the money that you may have you were gonna spend anyway, but you were gonna be able to spend it incrementally, purchase a piece here, purchase a piece there. By the time whereas if you purchase everything, then you use that money to service that payment, but you got that's sort of, am I making
Yeah,
sense?
you're right, huh?
Well, in a reasonable scenario, if you want to issue the bond, you issue the notice of intent, go through all that process, provided that no one protests it, because I mean, it's always possible to throw it into an election. You're talking about how soon would you have the money in play? I mean, just being realistic.
60 to 90 days.
90 days.
60 is aggressive, 90's.
Yeah.
90 is realistic on 120.
It's somewhere in the middle between
Okay.
60 and 90.
So,
On the development rate,
Yeah. It's probably closer to 90.
Yeah, you can beat that.
And what I'm-
75, maybe.
what I'm getting at, if we go that route, that's gonna throw us into the paving season. So we already behind. So to get the equipment that we need, I don't think we need to go that route unless y'all wanna wait. And that's gonna throw everything out of kilter with our plans and everything for this year. I think the fastest way to get that equipment is to either, utilize some of these existing funds we got right here, that we have money on, that we probably after this meeting, if we decide we wanna do it and get that equipment, we can go ahead and move forward on that. Or ask the administrator to look at the possibility of doing the lease financing like we've done when we bought equipment to pay. But to me, the quickest way to get it done is to probably utilize some of the other funds that we already have in place. To go ahead and get the equipment we need, so we can get it ordered, and when the season gets here this year, we can have what we need. I think we needed, $3.5 million or something?
I think so, somewhere around that.
Right. In this scenario that they're talking about, once we get to that point where we have some other projects and have agreed on it, then we can always come back and do that.
Well, that was part of what this was about. One, look at our bonding capacity. Two, may even wanna look at a loan, that's a possibility. Look at getting a loan, and now three, if you have cash on hand, that's another possibility. So this sort of what this financial workshop was about, exploring all of our options out there and seeing which way we want to go. We may want to mix and match, You know, we may wanna do it that way. But that's sort of what we were, you know, what I was hoping that we would get out of this. I mean, you know, you got $3.5 million to purchase equipment. That's an option, you know, so.
I'd like to see us move forward with that. And then, on the bonding part, you know, we can all, that'll take care of itself when we get to that point. But I think right today, I'm taking it the board's number one priority is make sure we can make a big impact this term. And we know we need to have the equipment to do what we need to do.
Well, after we finish this, if the board would like to, now that we have everything on the table, we know what we can do and what's available. Now we come together and decide what we want to do and how we want to do it. Whether you want to do it through bonding, whether you want to do it through the money, cash on hand you already got, whether you want to do it through a loan, whether you want to do anything. But at least now your options are out there and you know, you know what's available to you. And we can do that soon, quick.
I'm ready. I say use cash on hand. I mean, we got ARPA money, we got notes. Just use cash on hand. Go ahead and get it done. We won't have to worry about going through no changes. It's going to be the most expedient way to get that done.
That's an option. I would like for our administrator to sit down with us then and walk us through that scenario.
Yeah, walk us through it, though. Is there a way, there should be a way then to replace those funds that are being used, too as well, and that might be an opportunity to do a plan to replace those funds. If that's a possibility. We just use those funds in there, yourself.
Well, you can do a bond for the purpose, unless that's part of the bond issue to reimburse.
Yeah, you can reimburse yourselves. You just have to make sure that makes the best financial sense. And I mean, that's really what you need to do. You can reimburse yourselves.
But you wouldn't want to take a bond and be stretched out 15 years.
Right, for a 4-year, or a pickup truck or something. Right, yeah.
No more than 10 years.
But I wanted to ask, like, it was brought up about, you know, is that $3.5 million y'all talking about the ARPA fund money? That's the cash that's got on hand with the use?
Yeah, that's something,
More than 3.5 million.
Well, but if we use it for equipment, there's no match.
No, there's no match.
There's no match.
that's true. That's true.
And I was, and I guess it's not worth this, but I was just saying, I didn't know, cause, you know, when the city came and did their proposal about wanting us to help with ARPA money, they had ARPA money.
Those are matching dollars also.
But isn't it the
That
same
could be
money?
matching.
I mean, theirs is matching, but I'm just saying ours, are we still talking about that same $3.5 million? We don't have any other ARPA money, do we?
Yeah,
Mr. Administrator. Mr. Administrator, you up.
We got almost $7 million worth of
You have a sheet like this in your package, and this is for all the ARPA money, that sheet right there. We have almost $7 million balance in ARPA funds. At the top is what we spent on. The middle section is the allocation. One of the things you all gonna have to talk about again is the 365 lab, because our board order only allocated $600,000 to that project, but we realized that contract is much more. Now, when we reallocated the funds for the East October Highway wastewater expansion, there's $646,000 at the very bottom that's highlighted, that's not allocated to anything. And I was waiting to see what you were gonna do with the equipment. Now, Mr. Victor has a updated list that he can hand out to you all with his amount. Because before, he found the money to get those F-150s, so he revised that list and he can update that. The ARPA funds will have to be allocated by December 31st of 2024, spent by December 31st of 2026. So, December.
And what I wanted Nick and them to do and to educate us on bonds. Let us know what's available bonding wise, how we can how we can do it. I think we're now starting to get over into what I was talking about, the second phase. Coming back together now and, getting this list and talking about whether we wanna do it bonding wise, whether we wanna do it ARPA money wise, whether we wanna do it loan wise. I don't wanna tie them up into a workshop of us trying to figure out what we wanna do now. I wanted them to come talk to us about the bonding capacity and what's available, how we can do it. Was there another issue that we need to discuss here today?
Well, and I guess it goes back to bonding. If we were to do something with the hospital situation, that would free up some meals too, that we could do some stuff too. And I know we've been talking about that. I know we haven't got down to it, but that just kind of gives you food for thought, because you see what you got allocated for that. And if some type of transaction were to occur, then, you know, you'd have to, that debt that's associated with the hospital will have to be dealt with. And you know, that could change the whole scope of life.
You're adding all four of those OCH things together?
Right, anything that's associated.
0.13, 0.95, 0.43, 2.54.
Right.
Any kind of sale, but I mean, obviously.
You know, you'd have to satisfy that. Troy could tell me it's better, but anything that's, if there was some type of anything involving with that, that would have to be counted into the equation, as far as the county would still be responsible for that. And we'd either have to retire that, satisfy it, or whatever your option is.
And how many meals is that total?
This is on scenario two. I just got it off scenario 2. Those 4 numbers. Is that OHC or OCH? What is OHC? OCH. Okay, make it.
Yeah, I am the world's greatest transposer. Numbers and letters.
And if you don't do anything, and the county continues to grow, there's gonna be just a little millage gonna be shaved off it.
So
every
this is
year
like,
that you reallocate something.
so this is like a little over 4 meals just on the hospital.
Right.
And we were short a little over half a meal, and then we wanna grow by the other.
It's just something to think about.
That's what
4.05.
But as far as with them, the only thing we can do at this point, if we were gonna move forward with a bond, would be, board just pass a
Decide
resolution of
what,
intent.
well, decide what you wanna do, and we'll get it drafted, and see how, you know, what you wanna build, or what you wanna buy. And then we'll get the resolution of intent drafted, and see how much y'all wanna spend, and go from there. And then we have to publish and that sort of thing, which takes a month, but y'all been through this before.
But I think if we're going to be the ones to initiate, I'd like to see us issue, you know, at least those 7 million, you know, this term. And then we can decide what needs to happen with, you know, with that particular issue.
Have y'all seen any numbers on Felix Long? I mean, I know it's too early in the game, but is it about $7 million, $20 million?
We'll have something in 2 weeks, so.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple of weeks we'll have something on.
And about how many square feet is that building gonna be?
I don't know, that's what, they just came today to get approval, so after the meeting, I'll get with them to kind of give them an idea of what we're looking at doing for the building, so we don't have anything right now.
And don't get too hung up on the $7.5 million. All
Right.
we can issue in the first year is trying to blend in, you know, 5, 6 year, 7-year timeline there, what you can do. Granted, the more you do in 24, depending on growth, will impact those future years.
What's inflation?
Oh,
See, inflation, even, well, I know it could change based on some other factors, but it's even if you grow.
Yeah, it was at 6.5% December 2023.
and that's probably a really low number. But
Yeah, it was
really,
urbanized,
50% growth.
non-seasonally adjusted.
I think that's, and that speaks to Lois's point on there's all these other buckets for operations and everything from the millage standpoint.
We might come out of the workshop and decide we need to spend $15 million. We
Well,
might,
fine.
we might say, okay, we need to do 7 million of that in bonds, we need to do 2 million in ARPA money, we need to do 5 million in loans. you know, that, we might come out of there and mix and match to get to where we wanna get to.
Plan? Sure.
Glad to hear that, cause 7.5 is not a magic number.
Right, right.
No, it's not a major number. It started out kind of my base year, what do we do, how long is it gonna take, and, you know, what we've done in the past. But it's just kind of a point, just started.
Is there anything else then?
Raymond James, when these first couple of my questions on y'all's first couple of executive summaries, I mean, do y'all wanna get up and talk for a couple minutes on something, or?
I'm happy to weigh in on any of this, but I really think a lot of the information that we put together for you has been summarized really well by Lynn and Nick. You know, you're at just about a little over 7.5% of your assessed value in the debt you've got outstanding for your GO debt capacity of the 15%. But they've covered it really well from a millage standpoint, and of course, you know, we've already brought up the use practice that's out there, and what you can do with that. That's now, I know you all are very familiar with it, but that phased in over the past 4 years, and now you'd expect that amount to be leveling off. But I think the numbers that you're receiving are a good bit higher than what the original projections are, so that's good. And in addition to that, you know, as Lynn mentioned, there's, you know, if you go through the development bank, you've got other structuring options that you can look at than just the simple, straightforward 15-year level. But we're a little premature to have that discussion. In the current market, I would tell you that bond financing, while it may take slightly longer than, I'm not sure exactly the loan scenario you're talking about, but the bond market is pricing very, very efficiently right now. And so interest rates are, especially with the credit worthiness of the county, which is kudos to y'all for being good stewards of your funds, but the interest rates right now, I think we put, you know, in one of these books we had put similar projections to where Lynn and Nick were more conservative in the 4.25 to 5%. But the reality is, you know, right now if we were looking at, let's call it a 15-year issue, we're really closer to 3.5%. So rates are down a bit, and yeah, I'm again happy to answer any questions or weigh in, but I think Lynn and Nick have covered really a lot of the ground, but we appreciate being a part of the conversation, and especially as you think about going forward, what that might look like.
Any other questions?
Does that answer it, Ben?
We will be very conservative on the interest rate projections. I'd rather be happy than
Disappointed.
Amen.
Yes.
It's been a volatile year in interest rates, to say the least.
So as we're working through this and thinking about what we wanna do, we wanna keep in mind, a good interest rate is better to wait on and get that money and get that interest rate than it is to move too fast. Is that sort of what you're saying?
interest rates right now are really good. You know, 3.5%, 15 years is a good rate. We just did a 20 years that was a good rate. It wasn't just 20 years, 3.4.
I think there was 7.
It was a really good rate.
Yeah, and some of those, yes, faster vehicles to get financing in place, sometimes you just bear a higher interest rate.
And you don't know interest rates are all over, it has been all over the place, but it's stabilized. It's going down.
Okay.
Are y'all saying 2025? I know I deal more in the housing. 2025 when things come back down and be the best of the best, or
Yeah, I
without
think,
any?
I I looked at the world interest rate projections, I looked at it in January. The market had priced in, the Fed benchmark rate coming down to about 380s in January of 2025. I looked at it last week, and it's about 420, 430, right? So the market has lost confidence that the Fed is going to decrease rates at that rate. So there's probably a lot of things gonna happen through the course of the year to find out how that's gonna go. I think 20th is the Fed's next open market meeting. I think that'll detail a lot. I think that'll show us a lot of what they're thinking of. Do they start buying again? Where do they set the federal funds rate? And how that affects prime rate and some other things too. So it'll be an interesting year.
It's election year.
Yeah, I think the market has lost confidence
Not to
on
mention
some of
that.
that. Yeah,
And then international stuff kind of big, of course, you never know what the weather's gonna do.
that's right. Yeah.
And I guess, Mr. Collins,
Yes, sir.
and to the supervisor trainer's point, getting that equipment, how long do you think even if we had to wait 45, 50 days to get bonding in place,
Yeah.
is that about?
If I ordered it today, most, just for instance, chip spreader, 4 to 6 months.
Okay, so we could wait on bonding.
Yeah, rotary mixer, he may get out there and go to look, and it may come up, in 3 weeks, or it may be 3 months if they got a manufacturer. So that's how it's running.
Okay.
If they, he just happened to get lucky, whoever gets the bid, they happen to get, it's just according to what's sitting out there. It may be there and it may be not, but I do know that the chip spreader, they recommended ordering it around February. Hopefully that it'll be here in sometime around July. So it just depends.
That's as good information as we planning, what we want to do.
I would almost say, trust your opinion, if there's 2 things you can pick off that list that y'all know more than I, there's 2 things that are almost of necessity no matter what. Perfectly. If you could take 2 off that list, what would you order today? I'm trying to just stay within that 646 ARPA funding, but it's something you have to have, but
Well, that's a scenario. I got 2 Santa motor graders sitting down at the shop.
Sir?
I got 2 Santa motor graders sitting down at the shop that's not running
Need more?
because they waiting on wonders. Come to find out today, after 2 months of waiting on them, all the windows that they got was cut wrong, so they waiting on another shipment across the sea, from across the water to get here to get them right. Well, I couldn't put a person in them. So the motor graders are important because you got a grade road. And if it's cold, you very well can't put a person in there. They're not gonna wanna run.
So you take 2 motor graders?
Well, I'd rather for those to come in together. The rotary mixer, if we're gonna fix roads, we definitely gotta have it. If we're gonna grind up roads, we're gonna have to have it.
Chip spreader.
And the chip spreader is what we're gonna need to put them back together after we grind them up and tack them in and re-soil seed them. So things up there on that list are kind of one of those things where you need them. Some of the other stuff, yeah, you could wait on. The trucks, we could go either way on those. But that's another thing. We may order them now and they may be next year before they get here. So you won't know until you do a bid, put it out there, and then whoever gets the bid, and they tell you, well, I'm ordering it, and they can tell you when it come on. That's just like our water truck, just for instance. We ordered it last year, come to find out, the bed is ready, but the chassis hadn't showed up yet, and they don't know when it's gonna show up. And it's been ordered now for 5 months.
Sometimes they can't even tell you when it's gonna get on
They don't even know
production.
they don't even know when the truck is gonna get there.
Yeah.
So that's the killer right there. If we mess around, it could be 2 years on getting a lot of this stuff.
Well, is there any more questions for our financial expert? If not, we certainly appreciate you all coming and walking us through this, and I'm sure you all work with our county administrator all the time anyway, but is it okay if a board member has a question to contact you?
No,
Okay.
anytime.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. Well, we certainly do appreciate, y'all coming.
There's my card, just in case. Y'all take one, if you want.
Got me down.
I'll email out the information.
Yeah, I've got one copy here if anybody needs it, but you have to
Any final comments from anybody?
I don't think so.
We appreciate being involved, thank y'all.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all so much for coming.
Thank y'all.
And I guess the board now need to decide when we want to come back and have this discussion about what it is we want to do.
I'd like to make a motion, we go ahead and order this equipment. All 3,800,000.
Well, I know we need to put, but that may be some other things we want to discuss about doing while we're talking
Well, I just wanna get
about money.
Once we get them out of the way, then we can go to the next item.
Well, I mean, are we gonna do it with ARPA money? They just said the equipment, it'll be a while before it get here, and then it'll be worth waiting on
I
a
know.
better interest rate through the bonding.
But they can't make a move on ordering until we go ahead and move forward with the authorization. So, I mean, we have the money, either we can use the ARPA fund if we need to, or we can
Well,
get a 5-year note if we need to, or we can look at some other.
but I thought that's what we were gonna decide in that meeting.
Are we gonna meet right after that meeting?
Oh.
That's my motion.
Can we schedule a meeting for, what's the date, Monday? In one day this week, is everybody available, one day this week, to come back and discuss what it is we wanna do?
Yeah, I know I can't come tomorrow, I got to go to the MES meeting tomorrow.
What's a good day for it?
I'm out
Thursday, you out Thursday
Thursday
evening?
morning, Thursday evening.
Well, I mean, like I said, I made mine, no, what do you want to do?
I want to decide on which one of these we need now. Which one of these?
So we gonna let y'all go, cause we still trying to go into this workshop.
The Lord said,
Thank you all so much.
Thank y'all very
Y'all
much.
appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
have a great day.
Okay, thank you.
Thank y'all so much, y'all behave.
Okay.
Getting quick,
Bye.
that's good news, right?
Thank y'all.
Put that right there, I'm gonna put this back here. I got you covered.
Oh, thank you.
Take care, appreciate it.
Because
I think some of this we need immediately. Oh, Mr. Collins can probably tell us what he needs immediately.
All right, let's.
Oh, yeah. Is that okay for him?
Well, it would be okay, but they
Okay.
abused the chip spread right when I wasn't here. It got abused and
Can you no longer use it? Can you no longer?
I can, but I can't trust it. You know,